All right, so we are continuing the introduction to the Greek drama in this second part. We will start with the conventions of classical plays. So we already discussed that there are no more than three actors in one performance are allowed on stage. And also the second conventions is that there must be rules of unities. So unity of time, place, and action. What it means is that the story has to be very strict in terms of there's no subplot. So the time has to be the same time, and then the place and the action also has to be related to one big plot. So no movement from one place to another. Single revolution of the sun, usually one day action, and then unity of actions, one story, a beginning, middle, and then in the end. And usually there's also a prologue. So we have a prologue and then act 1, act 2, act 3, epilogue. So we usually have that 5 parts, and the prologue in the beginning is used to maintain the three unities. So the Greek dramatists invented the prologue, which provide background events of the story, which is explained by an actor on stage. But the whole story starts from a central point around which the whole action is organized. You will see later what it means when you read the Oedipus Rex. And let's look at the differences between the Greek theater and the modern theater. So we have here about the actors, and then about how it play divided, and then also the special effect and props, and then the religious significance, and the playwright is responsible to do everything that is in the Greek theater. And then in modern theater, you can have as many characters as you want, and then usually the plays are divided into scenes and act, and you can have lots of special effects, complex. It's purely entertainment, and of course, in modern play, there are specific jobs for, let's say, the director, and then the stage manager, prop manager. So everyone has their own job or obligations, but for the Greek theater, everything is uh, the responsibility of the playwrights. And in the middle is what characteristic that both have. They have more lesson, and then also they integrate music, dance, story, and then the tragedy and the comedy also. We have tragedy and comedy in modern as well as in the classical one. And the reaction of the audience is of course very important, because if you have no reaction from the audience, it means that your play is not attractive or not interested enough for the audience. And of course, a similar setup of theater. And so, as I mentioned to you, that in Greek theater, there are basically two kinds of plays, tragedy and comedy. And this one is the tragedy. In the tragedy, the plot revealed what happened to a person who went against the law of the gods or who was too proud. So this is the basic template. So the story is basically about the leaders or a hero or a king, queens or a knights who were doing something against the God's will, and because of that, they got punished and usually died in the end. And this stems from the Greek belief that man was subject to the whims of the gods and fate. So the Greek believes in this faith and also how God can play around with human. So no matter what you do, you cannot escape your faith, or if you, the God wants you to experience something, then there's no way you can go around it. So this is the Greek belief of how about fate and also the whims of the gods. So the root of Greek tragedy is that man cannot avoid suffering. So all men will suffer at one point or other. But the basic thing is, no matter who you are, suffering is part of your life. So that's the root of the Greek tragedy. And in nearly all the tragedies in the Greek play, man's biggest fault is their excessive pride, a mistaken belief that he could somehow avoid fate or the will of the gods. That's why the story is usually revolve around kings and queens who have power, and they thought that with the power that they have, they can somehow avoid the fate of the gods. But all the tragedies says that it will not happen. You cannot avoid God's will because it's your fate. So in relation to this Greek tragedy, we have always what we call a Greek tragic hero. So why is he a hero? Because he's the protagonist. The plot revolves around this person, but he experienced a tragic ending. That's why it is called tragic hero. And the Greek tragic hero had to be a man or woman capable of great suffering. So it can't be just common people like farmer or merchants or nobody. It has to be someone with power who can suffer greatly. And the tragic hero is brought to disaster by what is called hamartia. Hamartia is a single flaw in a person's character. Let's say there's this one character is very good, very kind, wise, but let's say he is an addict to alcohol. So his addiction to alcohol is his hamartia. Or another example, for instance, one woman has a hamartia of wearing expensive clothes, for example, and that is her hamartia. So hamartia is just one single flaw of a person characters that causes that person to suffer or die at the end. So it is hamartia. Hamartia is a flow of a character. And then another term in Greek tragedy is hubris. Hubris is defined as excessive pride. Even today, if you look at a dictionary, people still use the word hubris. And well, you can think of lots of other characters in the play that also has hubris, which caused his or her downfall. So hubris, or too proud about oneself, leads to suffering, and then to an understanding, or it is called catharsis, of a man's place in the system of life. Catharsis is sort of like cleansing. So what or who experience catharsis is not only the characters in the play, but also the audience. We as the audience, when we watch a tragic ending, suddenly we feel some emotional burst that is called catharsis, the cleansing of the emotion. So this is what is defined as emotional release caused by an intense emotional experience. So every time you watch a movie or watch a play, and then you feel at the end, you feel afraid, you feel relief, or you feel sad and you cry, you scream, and then at the end you feel calm. That is the catharsis. So it's all the release of the emotional when you watch the play or the movie, and it helps you to to make you balance again, because you have released all this emotional feeling or negative feeling that you have, and it is released after you watch the play. So the purpose of a Greek tragedy is to learn a lesson through catastrophes. So this is basically what the function of the Greek tragedy. So we, as the audience, learn from the tragic ending or tragedy that occurred to the characters, and then from that we can learn not to do the same like what the characters did in the play. So that's the lesson. So we feel sad, we feel sorry for the characters, but then at the same time we learn not to be like them. So that's the purpose of the Greek tragedy. And let's move on to the structure of a Greek tragedy. The structure means the plot. So usually they have a prologue where the actors presents the opening situation or on the stage, and then we have parados, the entering song and dance of the chorus, And then episodes, or in the modern drama we call it scene. Episodes is the periods of more actions by the actors. And then stasima or stasimon, this is a choral ode or song commenting on the action. So when the chorus came to the stage. And then exodus is the last action of the play. So this is the basic or the common structure of the Greek tragedy: prologue, parados, episodes, stasima, and exodus at the end. And in Greek theater, fun facts, all actors are men, and then young chorus men representing both old men and women, especially in the drama Lysistrata, seem to engage in a rite of passage, acquiring virility through impersonating those who lack virility. And let's move on to the Greek writers of tragedy. The three greatest writers of Greek tragedies were Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides. But for this course, we will discuss Sophocles' play. So these writers based their plays on familiar legends and myths. So the audience already knew the story behind the play because they heard it from long time ago because it's a legend, but now they saw it in the play. And the Greek comedy was not as popular as the tragedy to the Greeks, and one of the famous Greek comic dramatists was Aristophanes, who wrote Lysistrata. But not is known about this Aristophanes, but he incorporated the use of parody, exaggeration, satire to mock prominent people and new ways of thoughts. And in terms of their contribution, the Greek drama contributed the greatest legacies in form of the classical drama by Sophocles and others, because modern drama, even modern films, many of them have the same plot as what the classical drama had before. So many plays and their conventions have influenced modern drama and countless playwrights to this day. And thus, the Greeks are credited with inventing drama, although I said before that performance or drama performance were already there since the beginning of human civilization. But the Greeks are the one who make a convention out of the drama, and it modernized drama in a way. And these are some notable plays. Aeschylus wrote the Oresteia, and then Prometheus is Bound. Sophocles wrote Antigone and Oedipus Rex and Oedipus at Colonus, and the other two, Euripides wrote Medea and Aristophanes wrote Lysistrata. So these are the most notable play of classical drama. But for this semester, we're going to discuss only Oedipus Rex. And let's move on to the Oedipus Rex. What is it about? So it is a Greek tragedy that tells the story of the king named Oedipus of Thebes, who is fated to kill his father and marry his mother. So this is the fate that he has to accept. So it is said that he will kill his father and marry his mother. But before that happens, he ran away. Not ran away, but he was sent out by the father because the father doesn't want the prophecy to happen. But of course, this is a Greek tragedy, and it will happen, and it happened in the play. So the characteristic of the tragedy itself, based on Aristotle's treatise on tragedy called the Poetics, he identified uh, several elements of a tragedy. So in a tragedy, one has to have plot, which is called mythos, and then characters, ethos, thought, dianoia, diction, lexis, melody, melos, and spectacle, opsis. So these six elements of tragedy are the formula in most Greek tragedy. So we have to have that six elements. And the key elements to the plot are reversals or peripeteia, recognitions, anagnorisis, and suffering pathos. So it has to have that three elements. Reversal is when the character's role was reversed. Let's say from king into just common people or just servant, or the other way around. Recognition is when they realize something, and suffering is, of course, it's clear, yeah, suffering. All right, so the assignment for this week, if is that first you have to read the whole play, the Oedipus Rex. You can download it in Morning platform. I already put it there, and there will be a quiz next week. So if you do not read the play, you may not be able to read answer the questions, because the questions is detailed on the plot. And then there's a post video watching quiz on Morning platform. So also uh, do the quiz based on this video. Okay, this video and the previous video, there will be quiz based on that. So please do that as well. After you watch this video, do the quiz. But the quiz next week is about the plot of Oedipus Rex. So read it to the end. All right, so that's the end of the second video. If you have any questions or concern, just let me know through email. All right, thank you.